You have to invent a new language, really, with VR. Everybody here, we're game developers. We didn't just start as experimental VR developers, right? We've been console developers for years. We're all hardcore gamers. And when you're a hardcore gamer and you're an experienced game developer, there's this like set language, you know? It's like, this is how you do this thing, and it's this way because it's been evolving this way since the 90s or earlier. But you know, with VR and the motion controls and the movement schemes, it's like an entirely new interface. You're creating a new vocabulary.
The scope is very ambitious. What we're building is a very large world for a VR title. The level of detail we're putting into the levels is definitely pushing the limits of what can be done. So that requires a lot of optimization for us as artists. We spend a lot of time using every trick in the book to optimize the art.
Yeah, our big goals for art were to make something that would hold up to the expectations of The Walking Dead as a franchise, and to also make something that was visually unique, that we could say this is our artistic stamp, this is how we want it to look, but it does fit within the look and the brand of The Walking Dead. And coming up with that was, it was fun and it was challenging. We decided to go with something that was a little more stylized, so that it would not only call back to the Walking Dead comics, but it would also, in being more stylized, it would let us be able to use some of those tricks to kind of fit everything into the finite space that we had.
There's a lot of challenges with VR. There's the normal things like the technical challenges of performance and things like that. The fun stuff is really cool though, because you are immersed immediately when you put on that headset, and you have these kind of natural feeling controls.
You could just never get this with a console game. You can never feel what it's like to sink a blade into the head of a walker. You can never have one up in your face and you can't look away from your screen. It's right there, right? The horror is so real.
We decided to really lean into the horror factor. I wanted to really scare the player. I really wanted them to feel like this is unlike any other zombie game they've played before. So to do that, we wanted to differentiate them from any alive human. So for example, you'll see a lot of unnatural twitches, you'll see them walk in uncomfortable ways, and that really make them undead, unnatural, and unnerving. We rely very heavily on mocap. Any of our animators, myself included, can get suited up. We have sensors all over. At that point, it's just like acting. It's just making sure we get the right performance. For me, the most fun part about making this, it's when the walker grapples the player, when they grab you, when they are right there in front of you and they are ready to take a bite. I have seen grown men jump at that experience, and it's so satisfying as the animator, you know, to see your plan, you know, work.
The point of really good immersive audio is that it changes. When you move your head around, it feels like real life, where, you know, if you don't have a lot of rich immersive audio, then you won't feel that. You won't get a sense of like heaviness. You won't get a sense of air movement. There's a lot of like very subtle aspects of just life that if you don't emulate those well in virtual reality, then the whole thing falls apart. When I'm embarking on a new project, I think, well, what are the pillars? What are the main 3 or 4 ideas that I'm going to focus on that are going to largely define what the aesthetic sound of this game is? For this game, it was definitely walker interaction. Well, I'm always trying to find a unique, like, what are the unique sounds that make a walker a walker? It was music. It was a rich and immersive, dynamic, ambient world. We have dynamic portals, so if you open a door, you will hear what's on the other side before you enter through it. And if you walk away, if you leave the door open and walk away, it will collapse into just a normal source. So it's a very immersive spatial audio system. I think it's the most immersive spatial audio system that's been done yet.
In VR right now, it's so young. You'd compare it to Nintendo, right? Like old school NES days, right? And everything that's coming out on it kind of does one thing, and they do it really well. It's Punch-Out, basically, right? And it's like, it does this one thing, and it's really cool, and it's really fun, and you kind of play it and you're done. When I look at what our game has become, I feel like we're on the verge of like the Zelda or the Metroidvania. We're hitting the thing where it's like, this is a full experience that you can really sink your teeth into and get lost in.